decimals and whole numbers. Mainly going to focus on the decimals, obviously. Whole numbers, you ought to have a pretty good idea right now of how to do those. But let's talk about our rules. Step number one. I guess steps would be better the word than rules. Step number one is to line the numbers up vertically in line with the decimal. Okay? For example, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to get one out of the... All right. So if I had 545.29 minus 82.5727. Okay? If I had those, to line them up vertically and lined up with their decimal, you would do this. We would take and go 545.29 minus 82.5727. Okay, so we've lined them up vertically. Okay, and we have aligned the decimal. Okay, the decimals are lined up as well as the numbers are vertically. Now, if a number doesn't have a decimal, for example, if I just give you the number 500, where's the decimal in 500? At the end, okay? There's not one, so we can put it there at the end, and that's the same thing as having a decimal now, okay? So, step two. Step two is make sure that each number has the same amount of digits. Okay, so then on my example I just did up here, I would need to add 2 zeros. So they now have the same amount of digits. Now, once again, when we use the same amount of digits, we're talking about behind the decimal. Okay? In other words, I don't really need to do that. I can put a 0 right in front of the 8. Okay, but that's, most people don't do that. Okay, if you need to do that, then so be it. I had some kids this morning in third hour. They like doing that. Hey, that helps you keep the place value straight. Go ahead and do it. Okay, I just don't do it. Okay, it's just one of those deals that I don't know, I just never have done it. It's not something I do. Lily? Your mouth is bleeding? Your tooth is bleeding? You can get you a Kleenex, see if you can keep it from bleeding. All right, now, so the third step is to add or subtract as indicated. Okay? So, let's go back to my example. The example we used was 545.29 minus 82.5727, and we added the 2 zeros at the end of the first number. Okay, so that means I've got to subtract it. All right, so what that means then is this. I can't take 0 minus 7, so I have to borrow from that 0, which makes it 9. But I can't borrow from a 0 because it's really 10, So I have to borrow from the 9 and make it 8. Okay? Hopefully by now you know how to borrow. If you don't, then you need to come see me in tutoring. Okay? Because by now it's assumed that you already know how to borrow from the next number, all of that. Now when we get to fractions and start borrowing in fraction, that's sort of a new concept, and so obviously you may need help on that. But for our purposes here, that would make 10 right there. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 2 is 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. Okay? I can't take 2 minus 5, so I got to borrow from the 4, making that a 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. Bring down my decimal. Now, here's where some people get confused. We're just taking that decimal and bringing it down into our answer. Okay, this is not multiplication. Multiplication is different. This is not multiplication. Okay? So, then I borrow from the 4, I subtract 4 minus 2, I get 2. 4 minus 8 I can't do, I got to borrow, making that 6, making that 4. Now, for some reason, it doesn't sit right. Let me check it. Okay, it is. All right, I did do it right. For some reason, that answer was not computing with me. Okay, so I'm going ahead and rewrite the answer down here since I have, some other stuff in that answer. You do not have to do that. You obviously can just circle it right there. Okay? All right, let's do one more. Then we're going to do some stuff on the board with it. Let me do another one here. This one here, we've got 85.36 plus 14.2 plus 5. Now, with addition, when you line them up vertically, you can line up every single number. Okay? When you're adding. When you're subtracting, you can only subtract 2 numbers at one time. In other words, I can't stack them all vertically when I'm subtracting. I have to stack 2 of them vertically, and then I'll get to one of those here in a second, I think we've got one of those. Let me see. I know we do. No, that was the other class. I'm doing this in a bunch of different classes, so I'm trying to remember which class I've done which with. All right, so that one there, if I line it up vertically, 85.36, 14.2, and then 5. There's the decimal for 5. Now I want to make sure they have the same amount of digits. Okay? All right. So that would be 6. That would be 5. That would be 14, carry my 1. And that would be 10, bring down my decimal. 104.56. All right. Any questions over that one? Did you get that, Quade? You did? All right. Any questions on those 2 before we move to the board? All right. When we go to the boards, you're doing your work and your work only. Okay? Those of you sitting in here, you have the whiteboards underneath your chair. If you don't have one, then grab one off that back board. But we're going to do that, and when you have the answer, you're going to circle it. For those of you who have the little boards, you can get a Kleenex to wipe your board off with. Okay? When you have the little board, need a marker. Those of you on the big board, use the big board. Don't use the small board. Hey, Johanna, you and Lily Darling move your desk that way, because Erica's supposed to use that part of the board right there by her stool. All right, you can erase whatever on the board. Okay, go ahead and stand up, guys. You don't have to sit down. Now, those of you who have the little board, when you're done, you just raise yours up and show it toward me. Okay, and I can tell you whether or not you got the correct answer, or we get to dunk you in a Dunkin' booth. If you don't get the correct answer, we dunk you in a Dunkin' booth. Just joking. Okay, don't. All right, here's the first one. 53.86 plus 7.4763. This is number 5. 53.86 plus 7.4763. Do what? What's the first step say to do? Remember our first step. Our first step says line the numbers up vertically in line with the decimal. Like I said, when you have the answer, raise your board up. If you have the answer on the big board, you just raise your hand and I'll look at the circled one. Nick, you need to check yours. You need to check yours. You're off 1 digit. Good. Good. Nikki, good. 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 When I've looked at it and said it was good, then you can erase it or write it down in your notes. I would say write it down in your notes. Jacob, you need to check, son. We're adding, not look at your addition. You subtracted. Deshaun, you're good? Good. Erica, yours is good. Sophia, you're good. All right. When you stack that one vertically, whoops, might help if I stacked it vertically instead of rewriting it. Okay. Yep. Add the 0, you got 3, 2, carry your 1. Wow, I got a little carried away with my numbers there, didn't I? Yep, I sure did. Hang on. Got to go to 0. There we go. 3, carry your 1. 3, carry your 1. All right, you got 61.3363. All right, next one. Next one is number 7. 5.36 minus 2.2564.